Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sage Business Cloud Accounting topic webinar. My name is Joanne Barnard, and I will be your host and panelist for the session. Today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be discussing the different reporting options and how they might, or the reporting filters, and how they might affect your reports when running them. So this is a webinar, as please ask to host, just to explain the different options that are available while running reports and what those different options mean. We are working in Sage Accounting, which is the online version. So with that being said, if we go to our reports, I'm not discussing intelligent reporting. I am, however, going to go through some of our other reports. Let's start with our financial statements. So when we look at our financial statements, immediately we get told you want to view your profit and loss, otherwise called your income statement, your balance sheet, or your trial balance. Based on the option that you choose, you will then be presented with certain filters. You may also be advised, like in this case, there are unallocated banking transactions or transactions that need to be reviewed. Your financial reporting may be incorrect until you allocate these transactions. This is a very important message because it's telling you, hey, some stuff isn't allocated or it's not properly reviewed. Please go check that. Otherwise, this report may be incorrect. So that is a very good warning. It's a good idea for you to go and have a look at that to see what's going on. Here we can see that we've got a lot of unallocated transactions, and that we would in fact need to allocate these transactions correctly in order to make sure that that report is correct, because this is our profit and loss. At this point, it has no idea what to do with these figures. So it's like, okay, is this a customer? Is this a supplier? Is this an account? So you need to go through all of those options and make sure that they are allocated correctly, or your reporting might in fact be incorrect. So that is a very important thing. Then let's say we've corrected that. Then we look at our date range. Now, as we change the date range, certain things are going to change, and the way that the information is displayed will change. So we need to understand the difference between monthly, quarterly, yearly, month to date, quarter to date, year to date, life to date, custom, which means you select your own dates, last month, last quarter, last year, custom dates, and all. So if we go with monthly, it's then going to give you the option of either the current month, last month, or the different months in the financial year that you've selected. So it's going, well, which month do you want to view? Based on that, we can select an option. Then, because we're talking about our income statement, it's saying, look, what do you want your cost of sales to be based on? Do you want it to be based on your purchases, i.e., your supplier transactions, or sales, your customer transactions? So what are we looking for in this cost of sale? What are we basing it on? On our sales or on our purchases? Because this is the actual cost that you paid for those items. This then will probably work more on an average, so an average costing, and you might find that there's a slight difference between the two, but you need to decide which one is more accurate for you. These are your actual costs, so this is on an average cost. Then if you had to have included analysis, sorry guys, where does it show that? So I think that it's normally in company. Analysis codes, you have 3. I named one of mine projects, but analysis codes can be used similarly to projects. Did you include analysis codes, and would you like to base this report on those analysis codes so that we can drill down specifically to that? If you don't want to, you leave it as is. And then it's asking you, how do you want to group this? If we're talking about the analysis codes. So here you can see I want to group the analysis codes by month, quarter, or year, or I want to group it by the analysis codes that are showing. And then again, it's going to ask you, okay, what analysis codes are we referring to? So I broke my projects up into all of these options, but only one of my analysis codes is called projects. If I want to see everything for projects, It's telling me, am I grouping by the project or am I actually grouping by the month, quarter, or year? Now, if you haven't set up analysis codes, it's not something you're interested in, then grouping it by analysis codes makes no sense. You would just leave it as month, quarter, or year. But if we change to the analysis codes, and then we select the analysis code to group by, because you can have 3 analysis codes. Within that analysis code, you can have multiple options. So I can have unlimited options here, for example, in my projects. I could have it be all over the world, for example. I can then look at what I've called projects. And it will go and say, this is what's happening in Cape Town, this is what's happening in Joburg, this is what's happening in Durban, etc. based on my setup. But if I'm not using that, leave it as month, quarter, or year. And then do you want to compare? Now you'll see that if we compare, we can compare between last year and between your budgets. So again, this is dependent on if in fact you set up a budget for this year. So if you set up a budget, comparing by a budget is a very good thing. It can show you where you're tracking, that type of thing. But you also don't need to do a comparison. You can just view without comparisons, but you cannot view both. So it's an either or. If we're doing last year, we cannot change what budget we are viewing again. So maybe you have multiple budgets set up, or you set up a specific budget for like 2023. You would then view it against whichever budget is necessary. And then if we're going to display, do we want to see the budget variance? Again, the budget variance only comes into play if we've set up a budget. If we haven't set up a budget, ticking I want to view the budget variance is going to make no sense. And if you do try to select that, you'll see this immediately compares with your budget and it selects whatever budget is available. If you haven't set up a budget, you probably can't select these options. And then display, do you want the decimal value? You can see here you can have both, but with the comparison, it's either or. And you can only have both in the display if you are comparing the budgets. So if we had to run the report with the filters as they are now, it would run monthly for November 2022. I based it on my purchases, and then it would spit out an option, and I compared it to last year. So I'm seeing what was last year's November against this year's November. So I can see if there's growth. Obviously, there was no information at all. But if there was, I could then send this to PDF. I could send it to an XLS file in Excel. I could save it as a CSV file, which again is Excel. I can print it or I can email the report. So those are my options here. Again, I can show the report filters. So in this case, I might be going, I actually meant to select, for example, November 23 or whatever it is. So I can change my filters accordingly. I can also go current month, last month, etc. But let's change this from month to quarter. If we then start looking at quarters, we can see this has changed. It's going, hey, you can view this quarter, last quarter, the third quarter, the second quarter, the first quarter, or it's got all of last year's quarters. So this is a quarter is every 3 months of the year. So what quarter am I looking for? The other options remain the same, but the date range has now changed. Likewise with yearly. Guys, if we're viewing yearly, it's going to give you the different years for this company. So if you only started in 2023, you might only have 23 and possibly 24, depending on how you categorize your years. Some people say we're in the 2024 financial year because it ends in 2024. Some people say that we're in the 2023 financial year end. Both are correct. It's not a problem. It's how you categorize it, but only the number of years that you've been running the company will show. And then again, you will select your options. If we go to the months to date, basically what this is going to do is this is going to show you your month to date. So you can see there is no option here. So it's going, hey, I'm viewing this from the current month. That's what we're viewing. The current month from now until whichever date we're in. So if I had to select monthly here, and I had, for example, future processing, so I'd processed for the 30th already, and I see the current month, it will view the entire month, as we can see. But if I go month to date, what it's going to do is it's going to look at my computer date and go, okay, I'm only going to show you the transactions that are applicable from the 1st of October until the 24th of October. So that's what the month to date does. If we go quarter to date, it's going to look at what quarter we're currently in and go, when did the quarter start? And again, it's only going to show you information up until your system date, your Windows system date. So if you're looking for the whole of October, you've already put in your transactions for the 30th, you know, you're ready for those to go and you're expecting to see them. Pay close attention to what to date means. It means your current system date. Same thing obviously then for year to date. It's going to go, what is the current year and what is the current date? So guys, I think that we understand what the to date means. It's basically life to date when you started until the system date. So we understand the different, the custom to date, again, you can select the start, but you cannot change the end. The end is going to stay. So the to date does not change, but the from date can be changed. So that's what the custom to date means. When do you want to start, but it is going to run until system date. Then if we look at last month, clearly that's last month. What month am I currently in? What is last month, last year, last quarter? I think they're pretty self-explanatory. Your custom to date is where you can actually go, okay, what do I want to start at? I want to start here and I want to end here. I'm having a very specific date range, and maybe I'm looking for a specific transaction that I know ran anywhere from the 18th of September to, for example, the 20th of October. So I might be going, look, I know that it had to have been processed in that time frame. I was pretty sure it was here, it wasn't. So I need to go and check where that is. Again, you can select your other options. And then if we say refresh, the reason it says refresh is because I'd already run that report. So the moment you go show report filters, it still gives you the report as you had it, which is why you refresh. What it does is it then changes the report it generated based on what you've selected. But here, this might then show me different information based on my custom dates that I was looking for. Maybe drill down to, did I process the sale in this time frame? It should be 100,000, for example. Okay, it wasn't that time frame. Which time frame was it before I physically go look for it? Whatever you're using, guys. Then here you'll also see that depending on what options we're selecting, it then tells you monthly, quarterly, yearly. What am I selecting? You can select yearly. This is telling you, hey, based on custom dates, you can only really select yearly. So again, some of these options will change your settings, what you can select, your filters. What am I selecting? How am I selecting? How am I grouping? If I'm selecting everything, I can then go, okay, I want to group by year. I refresh that and it will then give me my years. So it's going, look, you're doing from inception until the current, basically everything that you've ever processed. The best I can do is show you yearly what we're looking like. Why would you use that? To make sure that yearly you are increasing your profit margins, etc. So that is if we are specifically looking at our financial statements. Now, our balance sheet is going to be fairly similar. Again, it's going to give you that warning just in case some of those transactions are in fact balance sheet transactions. So you're going to be told again, if you have not done something that could affect this financial statement, guys, be aware of this because this report could be 100% wrong. Because if it's out by a cent, it's 100% wrong. So make sure everything is done correctly, or you are aware what is unallocated. Should these transactions actually have been deleted and you haven't gotten around to it? Are there actually future transactions for example. Then again, what are we running this at? What date are we running this balance sheet at? You can select the current date, or you can change that date accordingly. Then display reporting group details. What does that mean? Use reporting groups to view either a summary or grouped accounts. Now, we discussed what reporting groups are a while back. So in Pastel, those of you that were used to sub-accounts, in Sage Accounting, we call these reporting groups. So we don't use GL account numbers anymore, but you can, for example, have sales as the main account, and then you can create multiple sales accounts and put them under the reporting group sales. So you can say, yeah, I want to see the reporting group details. So I don't just want to see my total sales was $1 million. I actually want to see the detail for that reporting group. So I want to know that while my sales is $1 million, Joburg made up 20% or whatever amount it is. I want to see the sub-accounts, basically the reporting group details. I want to see what makes up that group. And then click here to add reporting groups. If you have not done that, you can go there. It will show you or help you to create that. So if, for example, I had to go there, here we can see, okay, I've got sales, I've got my cost of sales, and guys, we can see that we can select certain things. So for example, I might actually go sales Gauteng, because I might have Pretoria, I might have Johannesburg, but then I will have, you know, sales Bloemfontein, then I will have, you know, or sales Free State, now I have Bloemfontein, and I can't think of another. Sorry guys, I'm horrible with geography, but you know, multiple different things. You know, in the Western Cape, we don't just have Cape Town, we have multiple different cities. So you can create those as reporting groups. And you select them, and then you group your account and you give it a heading. So you say, this is my heading. That basically becomes the main account, which we can never process to because we have to process to the sub-accounts. It's basically how that works. Just as a refresher, but when we run our balance sheet, we have to select those reporting filters, and then we can go view report. What it's going to do is it's going to show those groupings at the date that you selected. If we go show report filters again, it's going to ask you, do you want to see it? Don't you want to see it? And then what date do you want to run the balance sheet report at? If we then again look at financial statements and trial balance, again, we can see the reporting filters are fairly similar to the income statement in terms of what am I looking at? And we can go and have a look again. And those, we've explained date ranges and how they work. You can change the date ranges, but here we can see, what am I showing? Am I showing closing balances or am I showing movements? So closing balance is the final balance at that date range, whereas movements is showing you the transactions and the movement throughout the period that you select. And then do we want to compare? We only have last year, there's no budget here. So that is a bit different. You can compare this with the last year, for example. And then again, if you've set up report grouping details, by default, it goes, look, you've set this up, so we're going to include this to make more sense for you. And that's how it works. And then you view the report. So again, guys, depending on what you are showing will depend on how the information is displayed. So here when we look, now we see our closing balances, not our movements. So it's important to understand these filters and what these filters mean. It's like if I go to customers, look at all the different reports, and guys, I can't go through each and every report and discuss their filters, but we do need to understand the filters, and many of the filters actually are either self-explanatory or they are fairly similar. So in this instance, from customer and to customer is clearly your range. From category and to category is if you have set up customer categories. Now, if you want to see the first one, you select, or you want to see everything, you select the first and the last. You can also leave it as select because that basically means everything. But if you want to be sure, you can then change it and select arrange. Now, unfortunately, you can't just hold control and go, I want to see alpha cycling and grasslands. It's a range. It's, if you select that as the first one and mountain goats as the last one, it's going to give you everything from alpha cycling to mountain goats in this example. So you can't specify these 5. It's a range from X, or from A to B, or whatever it is, X to Z. So you can do it, for example, all of my A to Bs, or all of my A to Ds, then all of my E's to G's to break it down, but it is a range. So that's something to bear in mind. If we leave it as select, it means everything. Again, guys, the date range is pretty standard. It's very similar: monthly, quarterly, yearly, month to date, quarter to date, etc. So I think that we've gone over date ranges. We should understand what that means. Then we've got include credit notes. So here we're doing sales by customer reports. Why would it be important to include the credit notes? If we discluded that, we might think that our sales are better than what they are. It's not an accurate reflection of our sales. So it's often very good to include the credit notes unless we're looking for a specific sale. So if you want to see how your sales were for that month, include the credit notes, because you don't want to think that you did better than what you do. When you've got to credit a customer, technically you gave them the money back. So that sale is now null and void. So depending on why you're running this report depends on whether you will include that credit note or not. If we're looking for a specific sale, we're not checking what our sales were for the month or the year or the quarter. Including credit notes doesn't matter. I don't want to see the credit notes. I only want to see the sales because I'm looking for a specific sale. I don't want to have all of this extra information in my list. That is important. But if we are trying to check what our sales were, so my trial balance says this, let me check my sales by customer report. We want to see that those two tie up. It's important to include the credit notes because your trial balance or your income statement will in fact include your credit notes. So if you don't include that, you're going to be very confused because this sales report might tell you, hey, you actually did, 500,000, but your income statement and your TB are telling you actually you did 450. Now you're confused. What's happening here? Where did this 50,000 go? The 50,000 is actually all the credit notes. 50,000 was returned for whatever reason. So if you're trying to check what your sales were, include your credit notes. Looking for a specific sale, do not include them. It's extra information, makes no sense. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. Then style, summary or detailed. Summary is probably if you just want to check what your sales are. Hey, I just want a quick summary of what's happening. What did my sales look like? Again, if we're searching for something, detailed would be important. So what does the summary look like? Let's go view this report. Viewing the report is going to view to screen. So here it's going, hey, this is what it looked like. This is the summary. That's all that it is. And if we had to change this accordingly, so here you can see that we can't necessarily change whether it's summary now. So there's no go back to the report filters. You would almost need to actually rerun that again in order to, if you said summary and now in fact what you actually want is a detail, you would need to come in and change it. So I said detail, I think. I just want to check, sorry guys, because I can't remember which one I selected. No, I did select summary, I thought so. So it doesn't actually save your changes, so that's a bit of a difference from pastel. So pastel normally saves whatever you last selected, which makes it a little bit easier for you to remember, whereas Sage Business Cloud Accounting doesn't. It selects what people most likely want, And you can then come in here, you can make your changes, and we can then, for example, I want to view, let's go monthly, and I want to view September because I know that I did transactions there. View report. Here what I'm seeing is my detail. I don't think that it did summary last time. That's a little annoying. I might need to check why, even though, because summary to me should have just given me this total. The actual invoices shouldn't be here. I wanted to see if I was right. So guys, the summary should just go Alpha Cycling Supplies and it should give you the total. Detail should give you the invoices. And if you need to look at that invoice, you can then click on it and it should in fact take you to that invoice. So it should drill down to it. So here we can see it's drilling down and I can have a look and see, okay, what happened? What should this be? Is that okay? So if there's something like that that you guys pick up, please let me know, because as we saw, there's very little difference between detail and summary. And I don't actually like that. Because to my knowledge, none of these invoices should be showing here. It should just be telling you that this is a detail. So it's something that I will raise with the team, that there seems to be no difference, and that's a bit of a problem if you just want to see, okay, this is what Alpha Cycling Supplies did for this month, this is what Buzz Bikes did. The detail is how was that total made up. So guys, it does seem like that's a bit of an issue and that is not displaying correctly. So it's something I will raise, but just bear that in mind. The summary should not have that. It should just show you the total. So guys, you can then go through these different things if need be and check, but a lot of the stuff is very similar and it does tell you similar things based on what you're looking for. Again, customer transaction reports. The difference here is what transaction type are we looking for? Credit notes, customer adjustments, opening balances, receipts, write-offs, or tax invoice. This would be if you're trying to find a specific transaction or you're trying to check specific transactions. Hey, based on this month for customer A, how many credit notes did I process? Or in total, how many credit notes did I process for the month of October? What did that total look like? I need to make sure that that is correct and showing correctly. So going through your reports and understanding what they're there for, and we did go through reporting at one point. I just wanted to go through how the filters affect things. You need to understand what you would run these for. And then, obviously, while running them, it makes sense to then know, okay, based on, for example, sales and purchase reports, which is, in a way, your income statements, I have different options of analyzing that income statement. So I can run the financial report income statement or profit and loss, whatever they're calling it. But what if I want to analyze those sales and purchases? So I've got my income statement, which is basically showing me a lot of my sales and purchases, but how do I want to check those sales and purchases? Do I want to check them by customer? Do I want to analyze them by item? Do I want to check my sales reps? So that's obviously to check commission. What did my purchases by item look like? What was I ordering this month? Which suppliers did I use? That type of thing. This is when you're analyzing. So which customers are my good customers? Maybe this is the report you want to use on a yearly basis to go, hey, which customers do I, how do I want to set up my, sorry guys, the word has escaped me, my terms. Joanne was a new customer. I couldn't really give her terms. I told her it's cash on delivery, but you know what? She's always paid me throughout the year. Her account is not overdue. I'm going to extend her a 30-day term and say to her, look, because of what an awesome customer you are, you now have 30 days in which to pay me because we built up trust. Or maybe this is where you're doing those early payment terms where you're like, you know what? I gave Joanne this 30-day terms, but she always pays me within 7 days, which really helps my cash flow. So I'm going to tell her, if you're doing that, I'm going to give you a 2.5% off of whatever you're paying. That's when you can use those sales by customer. Who are my good customers? Who do I want to keep happy? Who do I want to reward to make sure that they aren't going to someone else? I want to retain those customers. My sales by item would be, hey, what items are selling? How quick are they selling? And that's what you would use that report for. You know, what stuff is slow, what is fast, you know, what stuff is selling well, and do my purchases reflect what's being sold, or am I purchasing unnecessary things? So guys, as I said, if we need to go through again what reports are used for what, let me know by emailing me. This is mostly about report filters and how they can change what you're looking at. But if we look at these again, we can see the filters. So what am I actually trying to gain by running this report? Am I using this to check that my purchases are reflecting my sales? Or is this actually to show what I'm purchasing? Did I purchase multiple of a similar product from different suppliers? Do I want to check the costing? Am I actually checking my purchases and the costing? You know, hey, I'm checking this. I want to see how, for example, my A5 notepad has gone up by inflation from my supplier throughout the year. What am I using this report for in this moment? Because as I said, you can view, do my purchases reflect the sales I'm making? But likewise, you're also going to use this to check that inflation. Hey, you know, this A4 pad I was paying at the beginning of the year R10.50, but now I'm paying $16.25. That is a huge increase, you know, and I've now had to mark up my stuff because of it. So you might look at the purchases by item to check that inflation, and then you might go, for example, and check your purchases by supplier, because you have 3 suppliers you buy A5 notebooks from. Okay, which supplier is giving me the most for the money I'm spending? Okay, I need to cut off, you know, supplier B and supplier Z, because the inflation is crazy, but I see this wholesaler has tried to keep their stuff as low as possible. I'm going to give them my business. So you need to check what you're using the report for. Based on what you're using the report for will dictate what period am I running it for. So what is my date range? And then am I checking a specific item, all of my items, that type of thing? Is it important that I check the purchase accounts? So it might be important to specifically drill down to a purchase account instead of checking all of them. And again, then, am I using my analysis codes? Is it my service items I'm checking here? What was inflation on my services that I'm providing? Did I overinflate my stuff? Is it within the market norm? That type of thing. Maybe you're looking at how for the coming year you need to increase your actual prices, or did the prices of the services I am getting from suppliers go up hectically? That type of thing. Do I need to check my supplier returns? Like if I'm checking my purchases and making sure they're accurate, yes, include your supplier returns. If I'm checking inflation, if I'm trying to check other things that I can use the purchase by items for, I probably don't care about the returns, because it's not about the money, the total that I spent. I'm not checking my VAT against my purchases and making sure that's accurate. What I'm checking is, hey, how much did the service increase over the course of the year? How much did this physical items price increase over the course of the year? So it depends what you're running the report for, what filters you will select, and understanding those filters. So guys, I wish I could go through all the filters, and hopefully I've explained quite a lot of the filters. At this point, I would like to ask, does anyone have any questions about the filters, on possibly being able to go, okay, what does this filter mean? Do you guys also feel the filters per se and the way that they are labeled is pretty accurate? Obviously, if we have reports like that customer report where hey, I said summary and you didn't do that, that's obviously an issue and we need to report that. But is there maybe a specific report where you don't understand the filters and you would like me to go through? Or do you feel that you now have a better grasp on them? Please use the question icon. It's a little question mark in the speech bubble, and send your questions through to me so that we can answer some of those questions. Thank you. While I'm waiting for questions, guys, it's also a good idea, if there is something you're unsure of, select the different filters, run the report, and see what information it's giving you. Because at times it's like, hey, I want this report to show me these specific things. And it is either a lack of understanding the filter, or it's possible that we don't have that functionality. But sometimes if we just change a couple of the filters, then we get the report in the way that we need it. So also don't be shy if you're not sure what something means to click it and go, okay, run the report, let me see what that looks like. Oh yeah, that's what I was looking for, or oh, that's what that does. Cool, I'll try to remember that in future because maybe I can use it in this way. So play around with the filters. It's always a good idea to have a look, see what those filters are saying, what you can select and how they work. So it's not a bad idea. And obviously go through the different options. Have a look and see what they are saying to you. And if something does pop up on the screen, don't just click OK like I did, but actually read it and make sure it's not something that's going to alter the report or it's going to be incorrect, because those warnings do mean something. It's not just, oh, this is annoying. I click off because I don't actually need to submit anything. My reports being accurate don't matter because these are all dummy accounts. But guys, for you, please read those things. I know you're busy, but the last thing you want is to not read a warning or a message that is literally telling you, hey, are you sure these things are done? Or we know these things aren't done, and if you run this report, it's going to be wrong, because you don't want inaccurate information. Guys, if you are also happy, can you just use the question icon and let me know that you're happy? So I'm going to wait until 22:10 to see if I get any questions so that we can answer them. So if there's a specific report you're not sure of the filters, you want Joe, can you explain where you would use this or what these report filters mean? I would appreciate it. Please send that through. Otherwise, guys, reports are very, very cool. And changing those filters can change the information, how it's grouped, how you see it, whether it's a summary or whether it's detailed. But always when running the report, think, what am I trying to achieve? When you're going in, go, what am I looking for? Am I looking for customers? Am I looking for suppliers? Am I looking for inventory? Is it my financial reports? Am I working with VAT? Do I need to drill down to my accounts? What am I looking for? That'll help you know where you're going. If you then go in there, okay, based on these things, what am I trying to achieve? And then select the report closest to that. Okay, guys, so I'm getting happy thank yous, which is awesome. So hopefully it's fairly clear. Then, guys, while I'm waiting, please remember if there's something in Sage Accounting, so Tuesday webinars, Sage Accounting, the online version that you're struggling with, something that's maybe not clear, even if it's a webinar we've run before, please remember, and I'm going to put my email in the chat, that you can always email me, joanne.barnard@sage.com, and just go, hi, Joe, I use Sage Accounting or I use Pastel Accounting. You can also tell me whether it's Partner or Express. So Partner Express on a Thursday, but I'm struggling with this thing, or I need to do this. Can you show me? Or I got this error. How would you fix it? Now, guys, obviously for errors, please also email support so that they can help you immediately, because you don't want to wait 2 weeks or, you know, a month or whatever for me to run that webinar. But if there are errors and you're like, hey, it would help me to know how to do this in future, support did help me, but I don't know what they did, feel free to send me those emails and go, we get this often, or I got this error, I don't know how it was resolved, could you help me? I can run those as webinars. Remember, these webinars are here to equip you guys to use the software and get the most out of it that you need. So if I pick the topics, they're things that I might look at our demand drivers and go, oh, I see a lot of people phoning in for this, or this is something that might be nice to know. But it's better for me to know what it is that you need help with so that we can equip all of you to use the software to the best of your ability, or to create suggestions from those, hey, this is what I need. And I can go, okay, that doesn't work that way. We don't have that functionality, but let's send this to development so that they can hopefully build it in the future. So please send me those emails. Otherwise, guys, if you need recordings for any webinars that maybe had been run previously, I do record all of these webinars. So if you look at the topics and you go, oh, actually, you know what, Joanne referred to that accounting and accounting groups. Where was that webinar? Or how do I customize forms? You can then say to me, hi, Joe, please can you send me the recording for, and guys, please just copy the full thing so that I also know the date, because on my system, if I actually do go to my video library, it does not tell me the topic, but what it does give me is the date, which helps me a lot. So you'll see here, it actually just gives me the dates. So please give me the date and the topic. I can then give you the link to that recording so that you can go watch it at your leisure. I am trying to turn them into YouTube videos that'll probably have to be done in December, and then all of the webinars from this year will actually be up on our YouTube channel so that you can go and browse them at your leisure and you can watch them as you need to. But feel free to go through, check what you've missed and what you would like recordings for. Again, pop me an email. I should respond to you within 24 hours. There, hopefully you can hear me again. If I do not respond to you within 24 hours, please resend your email. It could be possible that it got lost amongst a lot of emails, because when I run these webinars, I do get a lot of emails all at once. I may have thought I replied to you and I didn't, or it may have gone to my junk and it got taken out of circulation. So if you don't get a response in 24 hours, please let me know. Otherwise, guys, we're not getting any questions about this webinar, so I do hope that you found it useful. I do hope that I gave you a couple of tips and tricks on when you can run some of these reports, and that will help you. And you should get the recording tomorrow at around this time. Otherwise, guys, please feel free to log out, and hopefully I'll see you at the next one. And I hope that you have a fantastic day and a wonderful week further. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be around for the next couple of minutes in case there are any final questions. Thank you so much.